Welcome, welcome. Sorry, let me turn my air off. We're down. Just waiting on them to, to get this party started, I guess. What's up, Trace? How you doing today? Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I'm yawning already. I'm not a morning person. You got sick. You're fine. I mean, I hope you're fine. Yeah, I just want you to take care of you. Take care of yourself, girl. I appreciate you. I'm doing okay, Trace. How are you? Besides, pretty good, which is good. Oh my gosh, I'm already cold. But as soon as I turn that dang thing off, I'm going to be burning up. Right. Me too, Bewitched. Looking forward to more exposure on the Mormon problem. Yeah. There's a problem in Mormonism? What? Cool. I'm glad you got some rest. My stomach is killing me. Like, just, I'm about to sound really old and just unhealthy, but I just have, like, I don't know, heartburn, indigestion. I don't know the difference between the two. It just burns and it's bothering me. So I've been pretty pissy this morning, but I took some of Jason's medicine, because he's got all those tummy issues. So hopefully it helps soon. Good morning. Good morning. They're filtering in. Yeah, we're just waiting on law and crime here. I can't blow it up until it goes live, which is dumb. I think that's silly. The chat over there is saying, bummer if we have to wait another hour. Yeah, that would be a bummer, I like how people this is law and crime, they have 6.6 million subscribers, and this person's like, oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Bummer. Oh, no. What time is it going to be Central Time Zone? Like, really? Yeah. Hopefully the community will answer him or them. Let's see. Hidden True Crime. They're not doing the Khouri Richins today? Or are they doing both? True Crime Squad is also doing Robert Tallis or Teus. I forget how it goes. Okay, now I'm just moving. Scroll and roll. Okay, you saw a thumbnail for the other on there. Okay. Yeah, that's good advice, Carolyn. To Donna. Carolyn says, take care of yourself, Donna. Maybe a little chamomile or green tea might help. That's good advice. Hey, Angela, how are you? Jason, he's doing way better. It's weird. I'm just not even gonna jinx it. So let's he's doing better. That's all I'm gonna say. Y'all, yesterday, during the live stream, I think the first time when I had to go run and at least put, some pork, I had some pork chops defrosting, and it's just so easy and quick for me to make a gravy, pork chops, gravy, rice, and so I also grabbed some clothes that I'd hung up earlier yesterday morning, and brought them. They were, for the boys, so I went and brought them into the boys' room, put them on their bed. On my way out of the room, it was dark, and I should know damn better. Wear some damn steel toe shoes or something, some boots, because I stepped on a clip, like an office clip, black, with the, I don't know, they're metal. Anyways, I stepped on it and gashed my damn toe open. I was like, what? It freaking hurt. I cussed. I didn't cry, but I was pissed. One of those. Good morning. Hello, Cindy. How are you? Hey, Rita Mae. Mormon trying to pull some crap here in Florida. Girl, they own a lot of land over there in Florida. It's crazy. I'm like, what the hell's going on over there? It's bad enough you guys have the craziest like true crime, you know. Oh, speaking of, I saw this preview for True Crime News. It's a daily. Now I like the lady. I forget her name. Um, Crap. I think she does True Crime Daily now. Anna. I don't know. I'm not looking at my phone right now, so I forget her name. But I saw that. Hey, Carla. Oh, hey, me neither. I'm not much on the lives either. Still have much physical pain and going through medical researchings. Oh my goodness. Love to you too. Love back. I hope that you find comfort and healing, and just comfort sometimes is enough, Just find a good little comfortable spot and just try to stay there for a little bit. Damn. It's not too much to ask for, I don't think. Mhm. Tens of thousands of acres they've trying to build on watershed. Oh Lord. Oh, Jason showed me last night. He was like, "Oh, there's two hurricanes, in the Gulf," and then he showed me a picture of what I say a year ago. I was about to lie. Uh, Back in 2020 when we had Hurricane Laura, she was hitting today 4 years ago. And he showed how, it showed the eye of the storm, just everything moving over. And it was, I mean, Lake Charles, where I live, wasn't it her direct path. Actually, we were saved from the surge. It actually wobbled over a little bit, and there was no surge. There was forecasted to be like a 20-foot surge. And I mean, in all my life, I've never, I know that comes with the territory of a hurricane, the surge, right? But I've never experienced that, not that I can remember. And nothing ever flooded from a hurricane, or, we just always had to pack things up and put things higher just in case. And fortunately, never had to deal with that aspect of it. Now, wind damage, yes, but um anyways, so I was just so glad to hear that, especially when I found out that my best friend, my lifelong best friend, had stayed back in Lake Charles. And I was like, when I talked to her, I was like, no ma'am, girl, I don't think so. She got a good bitchin'. I actually, back in 2000, let's see, Ashland. I was 7 months pregnant whenever Hurricane Rita came through, which she was a badass, okay? Hurricane Rita. And yeah, that was right after Katrina, so holy crap. Um, so I remember like nesting in a hotel room. and and then when we got home, our home was the only home that didn't have a tree or any damage to it at all. I mean, there was a tree that from a neighbor's yard that had, landed into our yard and crushed our fence and everything, but just just the bare tips of some leaves were like touching the siding, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's crazy." However, I had some of that delayed hurricane action, and 7 months later, no, Ashlyn was okay. She was 7. I was 7 months pregnant with Ashlyn when Hurricane Rita came through, and then she was 7 months old whenever our house burned down. So, yeah, that was nuts. That really was nuts. That is traumatic all in itself. Just your home to be burned down. I mean, fortunately everybody, you know, lived, of course, but still, yeah, it was a lot. Girl, I've been through some shit, yeah. I really have. When I start to look back at it and I'm like, yeah, yeah, that was just, my uncle died in a plane crash or my other uncle, it's just a lot of traumatic things and just tragic, tragic, you know. But just keep on. Oh yeah, fire. I know. And so what's crazy, and I know this sounds crazy, especially in true crime world, but me and my husband at the time, we just were not getting along, and I can't stand to fight. I don't like it. And I become non-responsive, I'm just um well, anyways, and I mean it took a lot for me to say, "Hey, I'm gonna take the kids." And, nothing hostile. It was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna take the kids and we're gonna go stay, at mom's rent house or whatever." It was vacant, or it had furniture. Anyways, so we went there. And I mean, just to have that, I guess, physical break, or I don't know. I don't know. It was one night. I swear it wasn't even a night because at 3 o'clock in the morning, Aaron called me and he was like, "Bring the keys in my truck." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "The house is on fire." And I was like, "Oh shit." I mean, I got there so fast. And he was outside in his boxers. There were fire trucks there. I gave him the keys. He moved his truck. So salvaged the truck. It had gap insurance, you know what I'm saying? It's the only one that had gap insurance. Anyways, um, so yeah, there were like a lot of fire trucks there, and talk about uh and it's like an insta marriage fixer. Okay, you're just like, "Oh, okay, okay, everything's fine, love, love, love." And then it just, reality comes back and you're like, "Oh yeah." It was the beginning of the end, I guess. But I mean, that was horrible. What happened, and I mean, still the fire department never came up with a reason for, what do you call that? A source for the fire or whatever. The fire report, it was undetermined still. It still is. But what I'm thinking, because it was like a laundry room, it sounded a little bit like the cozy cone. Okay, except it was not. Okay, I'd burn that damn thing down myself. I'm joking. Oh yeah, yeah. Um, but I mean, it was just, it was a house on piers, and then the back door, I guess you would say, where a back door, would go, but, and was there. It just, when you opened it outward, it you step down 2 stairs onto a slab, and then I'd have to walk, across the room basically, or the back patio that's closed in and part of the house now, and then I'd have to walk up 2 stairs to get into the laundry room. And what I'm thinking is the subroof, from that tree damage and, just the wind damage, it wasn't really noticeable, to the inspector, the insurance adjusters and everything when they came out initially after the hurricane. It wasn't obvious, I guess. And I guess a little 9 months or so, and because it was a gas water heater. It was a gas, I don't know if it was a gas, I don't remember. I don't think I've ever had a gas dryer, but anyways, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning. Aaron was there by himself. Nobody was doing freaking laundry, or, so there was a freezer in there, and the washer, dryer, and the water heater. But anyway, so had we been there, like, we had, it was such a, I guess, a janky layout of a house. It was a house on piers, so it was an older house, but it had been remodeled, and so it was a large 2-bedroom, I guess you could say. And so, there was our room, and then there was my son's room, and then when Ashlyn came, we the dining room, we turned that into her room. And so, had we been there, she was only 7 months old at the time. I don't think, little lungs like that. And we had just changed the smoke detectors 2 weeks before that. They were painted over prior to that. So everybody check your smoke detectors today. Oh, this is ridiculous. Oh, they done changed the damn time again. Look at them. They think they're sneaky. 41 damn minutes right there. What the hell? This is just a go whenever you want court. Okay. So, what to do, what y'all want to do today? Oh, my goodness. She looks scared all the time, don't she? Miss Coco. The hell indeed, huh? Yeah. That don't happen in Crush's world. In Crush's world, I'm late, and court's never it's always on time. That's all I'm saying. Hey, Liza Joe. How are you? You too. Have a fantastic day too. Yeah. Yeah, we all dealing with our junk, right? There's lots of junk. Oh, and that's something, it says a lot about who we are, because we're like more than willing to go in and deal with somebody else's junk and put our junk on hold, right? How many are like that? I am. I'm like, you need help? Oh, don't worry about all my things. Let's just ignore those, Mm. I've been working on last night. Yeah, the never ending junk. She does look sneaky, don't she? Sneaky. I I worked on okay, so I somehow it seems to be a pattern. As I say that, but or habitual, that whenever Tim Ballard erases a video that he's done, and he said some pretty um in, incriminating shit, and then I end up like recording it, and then it gets taken down, because he deletes it or has his people delete it. And so I really want y'all's take on it, but I'll have to get it onto here. Oh, let me see. Let me see something. Oh, please. Let's look here. Because I don't think his attorneys would be happy with him on this video either. I was going through my media library and my StreamYard because you can only have 400 hours. And I'm at like 396 again. Like, I've already deleted um, my library or whatever. But I mean, it's all uploaded to YouTube. But let's say they take my channel down, then I lose everything. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I need to back up somewhere and into a free cloud. Okay. Oh, I know what to do. Mm. Thank you for joining. Everybody that's just coming in, they postponed it a little bit, another hour, it seems, but we're probably around 40. I'm not on there right now. We're at 38 minutes until I guess they try again. Let's see. I think it did it. Hold on. Let me press play. Okay. Hold on. I'm scared it's going to be loud when it comes on. Oh, yeah, there it went. It's loud. Okay. But, okay. It's a really shitty video, okay? Not just because Tim Ballard's on it. But what happened, this was back whenever all the Tim Ballard stuff busted loose, September 2023. And Jimmy Rex, because I'd stumbled upon him before, like just before, like the day before, he came out and did his spin of things. Do I think he's innocent? No. Do I think he's as guilty as Tim? Nah, probably not. Or at least he's not in my way. I don't know. But that's whenever I was looking and researching into Dave Lopez, you know, who with Paul Hutchinson, they left OUR. They were appalled by the 2019 whiteboard meeting prophecy. And Jesus is the only one who saves. Hey, Vicky. Good morning. I do. I have records. I have records of things. Yes. Um. So, anyways, um, I'm kind of embarrassed to show it because it was such crappy video. But I mean, I got it. You know what I'm saying? Like I got it. And I mean, I'm sure there's other people out there that have it. And I mean, I don't even know if I've published it before, but I tried to take me out of it, you know. But I basically, and let me not say what I have, and can I share that with you guys? Her black eyes are sinister. Yeah, Richard Dickinson, yes. They're just big. And I don't know. She's sneaky. She sizes everything up, you know? She's not dumb though, you know? You screen cap everything. My receipts are organized. Oh God. Yeah, I need you. I need you. Whew. Goodness. Thank God for automated, you know, Google Photos and things that organize things for for you, because that's not me. Um, okay. Okay, so we have 34 minutes left, allegedly, because they reset. and pushed it back. They pushed back the Khouri Richins preliminary hearing. So I'm going to share what I found or what I worked on last night just to kind of, I just need to get your opinion on if this is, I think it's pretty damn telling. Let me shut her up first. Move on to it and it starts. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's try this again. Sorry about all that. Okay. And so, yeah, September 20th, 2023 is when this was. And so I put the captions on there and, I compressed the video and everything. Now I have a shorter one that kind of goes straight to the point. And again, it's like I did commentary on it, just very, I don't know, rough, unedited, just very rough. And so what I try to do is remove my conjecture throughout, so anyways, but this podcast was deleted, of course, the very next day, after Marisol Nichols, the Scientologist lady who, with you'll see. All right. So I'm sorry for the badness of it. Okay. But they spent more. Okay. Said all that. All right. Let me get to this part. There it is. Now watch the apologist at work. Saving face. Yes, you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I'm going to say what I'm going to say.
Me neither.
So we're going to talk about how it is that Tim and I go undercover, why it works, the ruses and what we do. And we're sort of dedicating this episode to the female operators start.
Well,
how did this happen?
I'll start by saying this. Like, for some reason, people think of these operators going undercover. They always picture dudes.
I know.
And I'm not sure why that is, because the majority that we work with are actually females. Because we can't do the females are the ones that lead, that find, and there's many, many reasons for that. Okay, on the most base level, and this is shocking to people, but when you watch Sound of Freedom, you recognize who was the #1 recruiter in the Sound of Freedom movie, which is a real person.
I didn't successfully move it.
A woman.
Right.
Why is that? Now, if you're running a trafficking organization, you better be sure you're going to have a woman recruiter, because kids trust women way more than they trust men.
Yeah.
And especially a woman, someone like Capijuana, who's Miss Cartagena, she's recruiting children to work or to be models and to be famous like her. I mean, that's how kids, everybody who has been around kids know they're much quicker to run to a woman than to a man because of that motherly, beautiful instinct. And so it's a betrayal beyond like anything you can imagine in all humanity, right? The women would
no, it's the thing that gets me the most, and you know that it's the thing that gets me the most is when the trafficker is female. Yeah. It's so hard for me to come that level of betrayal. Yeah. Okay, so how did you start working with female operators?
Yeah, so I knew that what I noticed was, okay, if I'm talking to the female recruiter, she's like not going to talk to me. If a female's there, she's like, "You've betrayed everything about yourself too. Let's talk." So that's one thing. But the other problem I had was, look, there's several access points to children. And what I'm going to say isn't going to hurt future operations, I promise, because you can't hurt operations that are happening every day, all day, every country. Okay, it doesn't matter even if you say it. In fact, if they hear us saying this and decide to shut down their little portals, wonderful, we just won. It's strip clubs, it's high-end escorts, it's wherever there's a sex market. Now, in the past, if I were to show up by myself or send people dudes by themselves, well, what's going to happen? They have to gain credibility, with the trafficker, with a pedophile. And if they walk in there and the person tries to grab them and give them a sex act, and they don't take it, bye. You're a cop, or you're not who you say you are. You're certainly not going to get to the level we're going to tell you about where the kids are. This is proactive work. It's infiltration, which is why so many developing countries don't have a program, because it costs more money. It's like, you got to deal with the bank robberies, the homicides. So we go in there and say, no. We are going to know. Sound of Freedom, making people know it is there. Get off your butts and go do something to infiltrate. It's proactive. Now, here's the thing. You know me, married, 9 children. At the time, probably 6 children. I'm not going to have sex. I'm not going to do it. At the same time, I trust myself to be able to infiltrate and ask the right questions because I know so much about the market.
So just so people are understanding, so what's happening is places where they have children for sale are very dark and very disgusting.
No.
And you have to send people in there to infiltrate, and the first people that they bring out are the adults. The adults are there, and you're in, like, let's say a sex resort or a spa or any of the places that you mentioned, my audience to understand what we're saying here. Then why wouldn't the operator engage in sex with the adult if they're there to buy sex? It makes no sense. That's where you're saying the female comes in.
Right.
So let's talk about that.
Right. Because if I want to infiltrate, which I know I can do, I'm willing to engage in any sexual activity with any sex worker, adult, or trafficker. Here comes the idea. And I remember where I was, by the way. I was laying in bed in my uncle's house in St. Clemente. And I was like, how do we do this? And then it hit me because this act is not, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, just because you're a cop or a former cop does not inherently make you a great undercover operator. Undercover operations, first and foremost, are actors. Second, can you learn the skill set to keep yourself safe? Can you maintain your composure? But if you can't act, right, you're dead from the beginning. And you put yourself in risk, your partner's at risk, and the children are at risk. And I thought to myself, Marisol can do this with me. And we had a lead in Dominican Republic.
Yep.
And the lead it was like a private VIP exclusive sex club.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there was also another one, there's the spa.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brand. It's called Bonhavo Spa. We can say it because it's all been they've all been taken down. They're all
okay, great.
And so there was these two places, and I was like, I'm going in. But I'm not going in alone.
I want to walk my audience back for this, just so they're understanding. So when you go in, there's going to be someone else, right? And that someone else is traveling with a female. Yeah. So what happens is I got this phone call. I'll never forget it. And you're like, hey, hey, Marisol. I was like, hey, can you go to the Dominican Republic? I'm like, I think so. You're like, great. I need to go in and I need you to go. And I think I paused for like half a second and I'm like, all right, what do I got to do? And we even made jokes about this. And, my audience is, if they're listening to this, they're somewhat sophisticated, but we made this joke of like, I'm the cock blocker, literally. I'm supposed to be your wife. Like it was a husband-wife ruse. We've used it a lot. It works very, very well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Hold on. Because I made them. Well, I got a good pictures of her. Hold on. Let's see. 625. Okay, here's the other part. So you see how bad the video is? Like, again, that's my crappy Wi-Fi over here. But, again, I got it. But in the beginning of it, I highlighted it in yellow where he's like, it's okay. He's basically saying it's okay that we talk about the couple's ruse because, if it gets back to them, to their portal, and closes their portal, then all right. Consider it a win, and I'm just like, oh my God, you're sitting here saying now, or ever since you took this damn video down, prick, that, it's these women who are holding you accountable. It's their problem. They're the reason that children aren't being saved, that whole gaslighting thing, that whole victim blaming thing that him, Janet Russin, the whole outfit over there, they love to do. Even Troy Abels gets in on the fun, Anyway, here's the other part.
My audience back for this, just so they're understanding. So when you go in, there's going to be someone else, right? And that someone else is traveling with a female. Yeah. So what happens is I got this phone call. I'll never forget it. And you're like, hey, hey, Marisol. I was like, hey, can you go to the Dominican Republic? I'm like, I think so. You're like, great. I need to go in and I need you to go. And I think I paused for like half a second, and I'm like, all right, what do I got to do? And we even made jokes about this. And, you know, my audience is, if they're listening to this, they're somewhat sophisticated, but we made this joke of like, I'm the cock blocker, literally. And the point is that what Tim was referring to
for each other, by the way, both of us.
Exactly.
Yeah, mutually.
Is if you're traveling with a female and I'm supposed to be your wife, like it was a husband-wife ruse. We've used it a lot. It works very, very well.
Yes.
And the wife can then get jealous and block the husband from engaging.
Right.
And while we're in there, we're getting all the information that we need.
Like there's times when they'll make a move on me and we have a keyword. You guys say something like, I won't
forget what it was, but yeah.
I remember, but I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, baby, this is awesome. Something like that. Which is, in case you're not paying. And then
he looks messed up.
What are you doing? Get your hands off my husband. Oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. And then I'm like, I'm not talking to the sex worker who's the trafficker. Like, sorry, she caught me.
Right. So I basically played the crazy wife.
And now they're not going to boot us out.
Right.
Because they knew my intent was, but for you. And so they're still going to tell us about the kids. They did.
Yeah, they did. There was one, there was that one place, Bonhavo, essentially, that we left. And literally, I think it was within 10 minutes, they texted you a picture of a 12-year-old girl.
Yes, because we convinced them. No sex happened or no sex acts happened. They knew that I had a good reason for why it didn't.
Right.
And we were so convincing.
Right.
Me trying to like recruit you to be part of the sex party. Come on, if you can just get her turned on, we can do it. Like, I'm like desperate to turn you on, but you're like, I'm not ready yet. And they're laughing and I'm laughing with them. We're convincing.
Yeah.
That's all we have to be is convincing.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me that I learned in doing this was how, for lack of a better word, disgusting you have to be.
Yeah.
Like, just as an actor, right? If I'm taking on a character, and, you know, I've been doing this with you for a while now, I have to embody the type of person that would travel around with their husband or boyfriend around the world looking to have random sex with strangers, right? And so it was sort of like, what kind of character would do that? And what kind of mindset does that have to do with? What kind of things do you have to say? And I have to say, like, from my first time, I was shocked. I was shocked at like the depravity. I shouldn't have been shocked. But when you read about it and you study it versus actually being in it, it's a whole different level.
It's crazy. Well, because you have this force field over you that allows you to be in a place you never in your real life would be. And so you're seeing things. For example, remember we went to that place, the VIP. There's a VIP resort in Dominican Republic that these guys could not get into because they only service Americans. And it's like a $5,000 like just one-time fee to get in, which they don't have budgets for that. But I remember, we walk in there and we have this force field because we're a couple. And so we have everyone at us. I'm like pretending to be a couple that was like on the verge of divorce. Yeah. And this is my last attempt to like strike someone.
I'm going to take my wife to a sex resort to like rekindle our marriage.
Maybe I'll try anything. I'm desperate. And I talked to the guy and he's like, I've seen others do that. So I'm like, good. What do I do? It's like, I'll send some hot girls into your room. And then they would come in and you'd be like, no, what?
So I want to sort of explain sort of what happened and rekindle that. Because I remember this was the first time. And you asked me like, okay, so how do I do this? And I was like, oh, I've done this a million times. I've done sex scenes without having sex. And I've done kissing scenes without actually all of those things.
Yeah.
And so I was like, it's just a matter of where they are. And we figured out choreographed this to the nth degree. And we had rules. Can I talk about the rules? We had rules. Number one, like just rules that like you and I as people would not cross. Number one, no actual kissing. Like we you have to understand, like we entered a sex resort.
Yeah.
Spent the night and didn't even kiss. Yeah. We pulled it off by like I mean, we're spilling all the beans here. But we pulled it off. You grab my arm and kiss my arm. Yeah. Right. Kiss your shoulder, but we never actually kissed. Right. We never touched each other inappropriately.
Never.
Ever.
Symbol right there.
But it's amazing as an actor what you can pull off and make seem like sexual and all of these things without actually ever having contact. And so those were the two major rules that we stuck to them. We did 5 ops in 4 days. Knock on wood, we're having a documentary come out about this.
Yes.
And we didn't cross the line. One major rules that we stuck to them.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in my business a long time. I've been in my business about 25 years. There are actors that take advantage of, you know, a love scene. They cross the line. If there was ever a place where you were going to cross the line, it's a sex resort in the middle of freaking Dominican Republic. That's, to me, what worked was we have a natural repertoire just undercover work to pull off that ruse and work well together. And that chemistry that we have worked.
And I'll say this, we can get into the details, but I want to say this. Because we were willing to do that, not cross the line, but come near the line and do things that, you know, people like in my faith and others were like, well, avoid the appearance of evil. Okay, great
Not
principle.
In this world.
Unless you're trying to rescue children who are being raped.
That's the R word.
Not everything's so black and white. And I can tell you this, because you know this is true, based on what we did in Dominican Republic, well over 100 children and women are no longer being raped. 200 women and children were now back in their home because we walked into those 2 clubs. Of course, there are 200 women and children who are now back in their homes in Venezuela, Colombia, wherever, and who aren't being raped.
Great.
They're living behind. And one of the cases that our work led to, these girls from Colombia were literally being kept in chicken coops, padlocked outside. They lived in that heat and the hell until the nighttime, and they were unlocked, showered up, dressed up like little dolls, and sent for sex. Yeah. They preferred the chicken coop. Okay, you can't find those people unless you infiltrate. Yet we violate no moral issue.
We being disgusting people to convince these disgusting people and not have to actually do anything disgusting. And it's so funny because after that whole thing, I remember I was like, let me just take a shower, just even mocking up that mindset.
Yeah. Oh my God. You know, just re-listening to that, I'm just like, they are delusional, Ravina. They are effing delulu, like you said. Totes. All right. Back to Coco here. We got 16 minutes and 53 seconds. This person says Kouri is innocent, but don't know how to spell her name right. And the one above them says free Kouri, also spelling her name wrong. There's always got to be some damn sandpaper, you know. Just remember the free Lori Vallow page? That was stupid. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry about sharing it because it's horrible. And I mean, I still didn't cut me out all the way. I was like, I hope they don't. I mean, the second video, I was just kind of, you know, but so, I mean, I kind of come through a little bit on there, and there's some hard edits, but I mean, I was just trying to piece it together as best I could. So they wouldn't be like, oh my God, she not photoshopped it, but you know what I mean? And y'all know that like Janet Russin, she, with Troy Abels, played the video of, what's her name? Oh crap. The last op that left. Oh my God. Her name has escaped me. Anyways, they have her and they have like her eyes blurred out. And it's right there at that same podcast, you know, the same night. Crazy. It seems like I have more than that, but, and I also remember like on the same, not live stream, but same video I had that on the Tim Ballard stuff. I also had that episode from Radio Free Mormon, or some parts of it, where there was a guy who used to work for OUR who I don't think he gave his real name, and he had a picture of that painting of Tim Ballard on the railroad tracks, those painted by that McNaughton dude. And because I've been tracking my brain trying to figure out, where did I hear about the seances? So I've been trying to like figure out where I got that from. And it was right there. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. So I got to re-listen to that stuff. And I've been just reading for the first time, even American Crime Journal, Lynn Packer's stuff. I mean, there's stuff that I have not seen yet that is from the very, very beginning. And I say very, very beginning, but as far back as I've seen anyone go. It's nuts. He just needs to throw in a damn towel, him and his posse. And then I'm like, are they using Tim Ballard as a distraction now? Is he like, better one man perish than, that whole stupid shit? Bewitched says their religion places men above women to take charge, and in order to be considered good, women must comply with men's demands. Yes, totally. Yesterday, I was trying to, because we moved this back so much yesterday, Facebook is real finicky about it. And so I was backstage talking to Donna, and so whenever I went to go delete it, it wouldn't let me delete off of one of my Facebooks. And I was like, what the hell? And I hardly go on there, and so there was a message I had, and I can't even remember her name, but I had responded to her mid-August, August 15, 16, somewhere around there. And I mean, basically, just told her how I feel, in not so many words, and come to find out, she's faithful LDS, and she was like right on board, and she even F-bombed. I was like, what? You're the coolest Mormon ever. That's what I'm thinking. I still have to respond to her, but oh my God, hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's all I ask. It's just real, just be real. You don't have to be anybody else, to just be you. Yes, they do. They sure do. Matter of fact, that interview with Jesse Stay, which he's done Mormon Stories podcast 7 years ago. I'm like, oh wow, he looks different. And he worked for the church, and y'all, that interview there's only been 18 views of this interview from that Hellfire.agency YouTube channel. He's Ex Mojo. And I mean, I'm just like, holy crap. So I paid to see the rest of the interview. So I mean, really in total, it's like over 2 hours of nothing but puzzle pieces slamming together. Okay. I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, just a wealth of, knowledge, like information that I'm just like, oh, I didn't really know that I needed that to make this make sense here or there. He was more in it and around it, 2016, 2017, or maybe for sure he was on his way out 2018. Ed Smart and him became friends even. And again, I'm not touting for nobody. I'm just saying, uh, as much as Tim's so-called friends, have publicly, just like the church, condemned him, from Eric Moodso's being like, oh yeah, I don't trust that dude. I don't trust that dude. There's just something about him I don't trust. I don't know. He showed up on the flyers, which the same. But so did Ryan. Ryan Fisher, back in 2012, 2013, 2014, in that time period, Ryan Fisher would show up at the firm expo events, and I'm just like, oh Lord, but he's cool. I mean, as of right now, All right, we got almost 9 minutes to go. A little over 9 minutes. I feel like I'm just rambling. Oh. Yeah. Oh, I need to slow Nightbot down. That's a whole to do. I gotta remember how to get back into it. I could put him in timeout, but I like him. The Mormon Corporation owns a lot. They really do. Land. They try to, I guess they're trying to build their temples all the way up to heaven. It'll have to do, if you know what I mean. Mormageddon. Crazy. I don't see any comment there. I hope I'm not froze. Maybe. Hope not. Not everybody at one time now. Just kidding. Let's see. I'm gonna play some Feeding the Ducks. Maybe I am froze. Huh. This ain't good. Let's see. Am I glitching or anything? Me too. Me too. That's why I'm here. That's why we scheduled this. I'm like, we're gonna hang out. Oh, and the other one, y'all. Okay, so I'm totally missed out. I mean, it's really hard to follow. Anyways, thank you, Ravina. It's really hard to follow because you know how Utah courts are really weird with their WebEx shit. Okay. I mean, like there's been Hamblin hearings and stuff, but you have to thank you, Margaret. Appreciate it. Big time. But you I find out about the Hamblin hearings, like Roselle, now Stevenson, Hamblin Stevenson, her court hearings and David Hamblin. I find out through Goel on Substack, that's the guy that I, support, his work, monetarily, like his research and everything into just trying to bring justice for the victims of 144 plus people allegedly, who are perps. That's how many perps that are named in those victim statements. And anywho, so that's where I keep up with those. But Arthur Knight, and I'm just fascinated with Arthur Knight / Nicholas Alaverdian. Okay, have been. I just, usually you have to sign on to WebEx, yada yada yada. Not doing it. That is some. I've never successfully signed on to WebEx. I'm just like, yeah, I don't get it. Of course, I've never had to try very hard, but I noticed that the True Crime Squad had aired or streamed in his last hearing, and I'm like, huh, that's interesting. I guess it was, I guess it's okay. But then I'm like, well, what if it's not okay? I started doubting myself. And actually, I saw that they were live today, but whenever I watched True Crime Squad's Nicholas Alaverdian hearing the other day, I remember hearing the judge say October 17th would be the next hearing. And so I was wondering why they were streaming today. And I mean, I could have totally, got the information wrong, and that's probably the right answer. But anyways, I just wanted to see if we can kind of carve out a day, one day, where we can stream it. It's not going to be live, but we'll stream it and, you know, have it in the bank basically. And because I mean, I have all intentions on following that case because it ties in with David Levitt, and David Levitt is, in my opinion, he's actually more of the what do you call it, investigative lead over Hamblin even. So David Levitt, he's super sketch, and I don't like how he just walked onto a reservation and just, basically allegedly trafficked a little girl, still has her, moved to Scotland with her into a freaking castle of all things and of all places. And then he's had the envies or whatever for Nicholas Alaverdian, who I believe is, a victim of, I want to say Boys Town, or uh, not. I don't know if it was a Franklin scandal. It's one of those type things. Okay. And so, I mean, that's kind of par for the, or yeah, par for the course. I think that's how you say it, huh? It sounds stupid now. Whenever it's like generational and, there's abusers, they abuse, and then the abused become the abuser. You know what I mean? Like, it's, anyways. Or I'm like, I even wonder if Levitt is somehow setting Alaverdian up. Like, I just want to know what his thing is for nailing Nicholas Alaverdian slash Arthur Knight, all his other 27 damn names, Nick Rossi. It just fascinates me. It fascinates me. I don't think the hearing, I think it was like 45 minutes total. But maybe one day during the day, on a Saturday, I don't know, just something. And we can stream it and then talk about it. Yeah, big time. Over 2% of Florida's land mass. That's a lot. It really is. It really is. And I just wonder what the hell they're going to do, what their plans are. Are they buying it according to the Wasatch Wake Up? I mean, are we? I don't know. Is anybody tracking that stuff? It'd be interesting to see the map of the land purchased, the known land purchased. All right, this thing's supposed to be happening. Let's see if they move it back and move the goalpost again. I don't know, Angie. We've already done one delay, and it just went to waiting. It's ridiculous. Again, I'm not ever this lucky for court to be delayed on my court date. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Hmm. Let's see. Let me change my banner here. Is there anybody in here that believes that Kouri is innocent? And I mean, hey, I'm not judging. Let's see what I have here. We put day 2. Khouri Richins, 33. Okay. Eric Richins by poisoning. Okay. And let me put prosecutors and defense. Let's see. Let me change this up a little bit. Let me change. All right, I got to write this real quick. Okay, I thought they moved the goalpost again. Let's see. All right. Okay, both defense and prosecution rested at the end of day 1. I don't know. I'm not much of a writer, okay? Okay. Save and let's see how silly this looks. All right. Oh, this is ridiculous. Yeah. I think that is, I mean, it reminds me of Lori. I mean, and again, there's a little part of me, and I'm not, I mean, that could bite me in the butt too. But there's a part of me that's just like, I'm happy that my Uncle Charles went on a date the night before, you know? So I know that's not Corey and that's not Eric, but it's just kind of like the projection is real, man. In all these cases, all of them, they all project onto their victims. And I mean, then they turn around and it's like a persecution complex. It has no religious boundaries, it goes beyond that. It's all people's, and I find that so interesting. But yeah, totally victim blaming. She's gonna be just look at her with her big eyes, um, a damsel in distress or whatever. Yeah. Hey, Janelle, how are you, girl? Good morning. Oh, what did she say? Oh, just like Lori Vallow, yeah. Nobody, nope, nobody. I like that. Nobody, nobody, nope. No, I don't think she is innocent, in your opinion. Yesterday the sound was so bad. Oh yeah, I forgot to do that. Oh crap. Okay, let me do a little finagling right now. I want to see if I gotta think. I'm going to try and basically play it through my speaker and let my speaker play through my mic. Does that make sense? But I need to test it. And the only other video I can think that, I mean, right off the time, and I know it's a horrible video, is Visions of Glory. Okay. It's horrible. We're going to test it real quick though, because if I can make that sound okay to you, then I know that this can sound okay to you too. Okay. I should have been doing this. I was supposed to do this last night. Let me pull that up. All right, Tom. Come on. I wonder why it says my video from yesterday can't be monetized. I didn't play nothing except for the trial or the hearing. That is weird. I'll have to go check that out in a minute. Oh, shit. Let's do Visions of Glory. Show all. Okay, here we go. Let me get that going. We'll just test this out. I don't know yet. All right, so. All right, if y'all can kind of, I'm not going to be able to keep an eye on it and do this though. So just, somebody sound the alarm and anyways, I'll try and do it fast. I got to think first. So I'm going to switch it to here. I need to know. Hold on. Let me turn this up. Come on.
In this life, John. And they don't want us to see, because once we see, it's hard to close our eyes again. And I was thinking, what are these 550 people doing here tonight? We are going to see, and after tonight, we will never be the same way again. For he wants to show us things that are soon to come to pass, because he needs a prepared people.
Oh, Lord.
And we made those promises before we came here. Father, we'll go down and we will prepare ourselves. And with the grace of God, and through that grace, he will open those things unto us. For this earth is ready, and it is prepared to move this church and these people into that next process.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned
many
times in our interviews, and by the way, we spent
the first time or after I muted, because whenever I mute myself, then that shows just it's carrying it through the system. Yeah, it's a super low video though, so I'm thinking if I can get this super low video of creepy voice here to play and sound good just by playing it through my microphone, basically, then I can do that with Khouri Richins here, which, I mean, we're still waiting. We're still waiting, y'all. Okay, so all right, I'm gonna try it again. I need everybody's help. Okay, I'm gonna try playing it first through my speaker. Okay, So option 1, ready, and hold on.
The Spirit will open to you in ways and fashions, because remember, it was He who said, I am mindful of that sparrow that falls. And if He is mindful of a sparrow, He is mindful of us. And He cares about us and wants to show us just what you said today. He wants to show us all that He has to show us. But you know, there's a dark side in this life, John, and they don't want us to see because.
Okay, so that's through my speaker. That's like a step above. Okay, so that's me really trying to amp it up. Okay, now I'm just going to play it through the system. So I'm going to mute myself and I'm just going to play it. Tell me which one. Number 1 is the one I just did, and this will be number 2. Literally.
Once we see, it's hard to close our eyes again. And I was thinking, what are these 550 people doing here tonight? We are going to see, and after tonight, we will never be the same way again. For He wants to show us things that are soon to come to pass.
I don't know.
Because He needs a prepared people.
Yeah, I agree with her. It's just the courtroom microphones. They suck. All right, let me switch back over to Khouri Richins. I'm so sorry, y'all. Taking y'all for a dang ride. Okay, that was so loud anyways. To have it turned up, holy crap. Okay. Come on, girl. They're going to be going to lunch by the time they get on. You know? $580 people waiting right there. That's boring. I don't have anything to entertain y'all with. Thank you, Angie. And thank y'all for helping. I like Margaret. She's like, the problem wasn't your sound. It was the courtroom mics. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Yeah, I think so too. I think so too, Beach Bum. His voice is creepy, TC. I don't, it's like I feel like I'm at a funeral, or should be. Maybe that's the point. I don't know. It's weird. And I thought, because I mean, I can be particularly petty. So, but I mean, for real, it's, it's that, I don't know. It is creepy. It's creepy. Now I'm sitting here thinking about it. Yeah. They need a courtroom daddy is what they need. Okay. All right, I'm gonna mute so I can pack my cigarettes. Okie doke. I know his voice is still creeping me out. But like that Ken Krogh video I have of him on the whiteboard, another whiteboard, it's super low too. So I gotta Google some remedies or, how to, to help amplify that. So that way when I share it, then it won't be frustrating. It'll be less frustrating. How about that? Coordinator. That's funny. Oh, you funny beach bum. Coordinator. Oh my goodness. All these dramatic people, huh? Yeah, sound boost. If there was an option, you know, I don't think there is on YouTube. Hell, there could be. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. I'd have to find out the hard way, the long way. Let's see. Let's see what there's. Oh shit. Oh damn.
Event, I think, would be in error. The best evidence of the attempted homicide by poisoning on Valentine's Day is the actual homicide by poisoning 17 days later. All of the defendant's motive that existed for the homicide also exists for the attempted homicide. And maybe let me just kind of detail some of that for the court. I don't want to belabor the briefing, but there's some highlights there.
I agree with you. The financial motives that existed in March existed in February.
That's correct. But it's not only the financial motive, Your Honor. There is, and I don't want to recap it unless it's helpful for the court. I can recap the financial motives.
I think I have those
Okay.
sufficiently in hand.
Your Honor, the second motive that is just as present in February as it was in March, 17 days later, was her love interest in Mr. Grossman and their planning of the future. And specifically, the purchase of the $3 million Midway mansion where she discussed raising children and farming with him about a month earlier.
I guess what I'm saying is you don't need to prove motive beyond a reasonable doubt. The state has shown probable cause for
Okay.
motive.
So then I guess the takeaway, Your Honor, is that the same motive for the charged homicide it's identical to the attempted homicide.
I agree.
Okay, I will move on.
Yeah. And candidly, I think the state has probable cause that she procured fentanyl prior to February 14th. The state has shown probable cause that she wanted something stronger after February 14th and saw it again. Made a reference to the Michael Jackson stuff, which I think at least in the preliminary hearing stage, I can take judicial notice, refers to a well-known event in which someone took a controlled substance and died. I'm tracking all of that. Where I stumble or where I pause is, do we have an evidentiary foundation for a non-speculative inference that she actually gave Eric Richins a controlled substance on February 14th?
So we do, Your Honor.
Or attempted to do so.
Sure. Let's kind of focus in then on February 14th with the understanding that she 2 days earlier, probable cause understanding that she 2 days earlier purchased fentanyl from Ms. Ballard.
Got it.
Okay. So her conduct on Valentine's Day helps establish that she, in fact, provided the fentanyl to Eric Richins. And so her conduct that day starts early in the morning when she purchased a sandwich from the Mirror Lake Diner.
Well, we know she makes a purchase from the Mirror Lake Diner, right?
Yes.
We don't know that it's a sandwich based upon admissible evidence.
So we do.
Tell me how.
The invoice from the Mirror Lake Diner entered into evidence as Exhibit 66.
Go ahead.
Shows I think it's labeled on the invoice as breakfast sandwich.
Yeah, bagel sandwich.
Okay, bagel sandwich. And Your Honor, we also know from the defendant's own words that in her text message with her best friend, she admits to purchasing a sandwich that day.
Remind me, which exhibit is that? We're gonna need to talk about
I'm
that.
gonna need
Yeah.
some help on that.
I know what you refer to, but I just need to look at it with you.
Yeah, I might have it in my notes, Your Honor. If not, we're working on that on the side.
But keep going, we can go chronologically.
So we know from the invoice and from her text message that she purchased a sandwich that morning from the Mirror Lake Diner. We also have, as the court's seen, bank statements that confirm a purchase, phone call that confirms an order. The receipt corroborates, the invoice corroborates that the phone call is related to the order in Exhibit 66. So she purchases the sandwich from the Mirror Lake Diner. I think it's something like a 9:07 pickup is what the invoice shows. We then know at 9:43, the defendant, it's Exhibit 8, Your Honor, is a text message with her best friend.
Okay.
We then know at 9:43, she text messages her paramour that she's on her way. And at 9:49, she sends him a navigation screenshot that shows her kind of leaving the Camas area with an arrival time at some unknown destination approximately an hour from then. We also know, based on her text activity with her paramour, that they were essentially together all day. And we know that because, as the court can see, they text frequently throughout the day. But throughout that day, they weren't texting with each other. And I think the reasonable inference is they were not texting with each other because they were together. While the defendant is an hour or so away from Eric Richins with her paramour, Eric Richins has some medical event strong enough that he texts the defendant and says he's considering going to the hospital. We have that text exchange in evidence.
Right.
Feeling sick enough to go to a hospital, and then sleeping in the garage, which he also texts, for about 2 hours, which is consistent with no activity on his phone and associated devices. All of that is consistent with reaction to fentanyl.
I've read it, but I can't remember the number. The number for the 1102 from the person that lays that foundation regarding a reaction to fentanyl.
Yes, so that's the toxicologist, Matt Slauson.
Okay, thank you. Keep going.
Your Honor, also in evidence is literature from the Mayo Clinic, which lays a similar foundation. Okay, so we now have, right, in the chronology of Valentine's Day 2022, the defendant and her paramour an hour or more away. Eric Richins sick enough that he's considering going to the hospital, and he's inactive for 2 hours. All of that consistent with fentanyl poisoning. And then at that point, the defendant's own words are kind of important here because he texts her, right, of his illness, of considering going to the hospital. And what she says is chilling. She says, take a nap. And then she doesn't check on him for 2 hours. She doesn't come home. She doesn't text. She doesn't call. She doesn't check on him. Their next communication is 2 hours later when Eric Richins checks in with the defendant. Notably, throughout the day, Valentine's Day, and thereafter, the defendant's reaction to Valentine's Day events is consistent with a consciousness of guilt. She had texted on February 11th and 12th significantly with her drug dealer during a time frame that corresponds with the drug dealer's purchase of fentanyl at the Maverick and the Draper.
Right.
Those texts are deleted from her phone. She texted with the drug dealer 30 times, about 30 times with Mr. Kouri testimony. On Valentine's Day, and those texts are deleted. There is no good reason the defendant is spending Valentine's Day with her paramour and texting her drug dealer 30 times. Eric Richins texted the defendant a photo while he was texting her about feeling ill and considering going to the hospital. That photo is deleted from the defendant's phone and also from Eric Richins' phone. That is in the moment consciousness of guilt. The next day,
Forgive me, I don't recall testimony from Mr. Kouri or any documentary evidence about when those images were deleted. Now, I acknowledge they were deleted sometimes after they were created, but
very young.
okay. Okay.
The next day, after Valentine's Day, February the 15th, 2022, the defendant lamented to her paramour, if he could just go away, life would be so perfect. And then 2 weeks later, she assured her paramour, life is going to be different, I promise. Hang in there until Friday. On Friday, Eric Richins was dead. We've referenced Exhibit 8, the text messages that the defendant sent to her best friend.
I don't think that's 8. I think Celebrite is 8. Can you give me that number?
Well, Your Honor, it would be found in the Celebrite extraction.
Oh, my apologies. Okay.
So,
It's not like a screenshot, it looks
Oh.
like a download.
Let's get there together. I need the exact language of that. It would be. Okay, got it. So this is, we got to be specific about this, a June 18, 2022 communication, correct?
yes, Your Honor, it's
Okay.
June 18, 2022. I can give the court some context, which the court's already familiar with on the timing. The timing relates to the same allegation kind of is wrapped up in the attempted homicide charge that was made in the civil litigation. And timing would suggest, I think it is reasonable to infer that they were discussing this incident. This text is a discussion of the Valentine's Day 2022 incident as put forth publicly in the civil filing.
I have some questions about this when you're done going through the evidence.
Okay.
I also have questions about the February 15 text messages. So just put 2 pins in those.
Um,
I'm not questioning the exhibits. I didn't know those exhibits.
no, sure. So that glance was to get a copy of whatever the
Okay.
February 15 text was.
Well, see, if you would just go away, ... and then
Yeah.
I promise we'll be together on Friday or worse than that.
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
we can discuss those kind of texts when we're both looking at them.
Okay.
The text to her the text to her best friend regarding Valentine's Day. The defendant says, it was Valentine's Day and Eric and I were both working from home that day. We know that to be false. We know that to be false from her text messages with Eric himself. We know that to be false from her text messages with her paramour. We know that to be false from the navigation screenshot. Continuing with the text, she says, he, meaning Eric, never broke out in hives or used an EpiPen. She did not know that. She was not with him. The court can reasonably infer that the opposite is true. She is lying about being with him. She is lying about him not breaking out in hives. She is lying about him not using an EpiPen, because she knows those facts are indeed true and indeed inculpatory. So do you want to discuss those texts, or should I continue on with kind of further answering your question, is how the homicide charge kind of relates directly to the attempted homicide charge?
Well, let's pause here for a second.
Yes.
We also skipped over or didn't mention in that recitation. Remind me of the date where she asks CL for something stronger.
So, Your Honor, that I don't know that I know a precise date. It's somewhere around February 25th.
I think it was 12 days later, right? Okay.
And Your Honor, the court raises an important point, right? I said at the outset that the best evidence of the attempted homicide by poisoning is the actual homicide by poisoning 17 days later. And the defendant learned from the attempt and applied it to the homicide. And we see that with what the court just raised. She wanted something stronger. She learned that whatever she used on Valentine's Day wasn't strong enough, which is why she went back and asked for something stronger. But she had a similar MO, right? You know, her MO is to go to the drug dealer, procure fentanyl, and 2 or 3 days later, 4 days later, administer fentanyl. That is the same. The drug is the same. The drug dealer is the same. The timing is the same. But she learned. She learned she needed something stronger. She also learned how to administer it. She learned that putting it in a sandwich where Eric Richins could take a bite, feel the effects, set the sandwich down, was not the proper way to administer a fatal dose of fentanyl. Instead, she administered it with a lemon shot, where Eric Richins would throw it back all at once. She says that in her journal article, her journal note at Exhibit 49. And she learns that it takes a truckload of fentanyl to kill him. She learns that one bite in a sandwich isn't enough. It has to be stronger. It has to be administered once, and it has to be a lot. And that's why Eric Richins' toxicology shows 5 times the lethal amount in his blood and 20,000 nanograms per milliliter remaining in his gastric fluid. The attempt and the homicide are connected in MO and lessons learned.
If we view, let's imagine for a moment that everything through February 15, well, February 26 stays the same. Imagine Eric Richins is still alive. The text message on June 18 gets sent. I imagine you tell me we'd still have probable cause of attempted murder.
We would, Your Honor, and I guess that goes back right to the standard of this hearing. You know, all reasonable inferences go to the state.
Right. And I hear you telling me it's a non-speculative inference that you tried to poison him because we have her admitting that you ordered lunch from Miro at Diner. We have him having a significant enough event that he contemplates going to the hospital. We have text messages on February 15 that draw reasonable inference that she wanted it dead. We have her out looking for something stronger when he did not die on February 14. We have a financial motive. We have the medical foundation. The difficulty is, right, and maybe this just highlights the low threshold that is the probable cause determination. And I imagine this is what Ms. Nestor and Ms. Lewis is going to tell me, is this turns just about every possession charge into an attempted murder charge if the spouse has some medical event around the same time. But here you'd say.
And the spouse dies 17 days later under very, very similar circumstances, saying that in no connection between the two.
And is it 404 that lets me connect the dots here?
I don't even think the court has to go to 404. I think the court can connect. Certainly it's probative. So, yeah, certainly it's relevant. I guess the court could connect the dots through probative, but there's no doubt, especially, returning to the fact that this is a domestic violence case. The court sees the consistency in the domestic violence defendant's conduct throughout. The motive is super strong. I mean, I know we've kind of agreed that the motive is present in both circumstances, but
it's equally present. It's separated by merely 3 weeks.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's equally as strong. Now, Your Honor, the court raised, that this isn't speculative, and it's not. And Schmidt kind of talks to the notion, the point, right, that the court's job here is not to sift through the evidence and find the most reasonable explanation, just to make sure that the state's record, that the most reasonable inferences, just to make sure, rather, that the state's inference is reasonable. And we leave the most reasonable inference question to the jury.
Okay. All right, so if you've got probable cause for count 2, you've got it for count 4.
Yes, so I think two goes that, or 4 goes that, 2 goes.
Right. I think I understand the state's position here. You will, of course, get the last word on counts, on all the counts, but certainly counts 2 and 4. I have some questions regarding some of those financial counts.
Yes.
Bear with me for a moment. All right, count 8 for insurance fraud. What is the conduct that forms the basis of that count? Count 7, the $100,000 true stage policy. I'm following the state's argument. I'm not sure what count 8 refers to.
Yes, Your Honor, and in the statute under count 8, the insurance fraud statute has different non-exclusive, or I guess different exclusive theories of presenting an insurance fraud claim.
Certainly.
And then count 8 is kind of the broadest claim. It's the scheme claim.
Well, for count 7, right, it's either it could be the forged signature, it could be the false representations regarding how Eric got the fentanyl in him. Either one of those, I think, would get you there. Let's just say it's the false statements regarding the fentanyl.
Sure.
You have a forgery count
Sure.
regarding the false signature. I think in either, bear with me, 9 or 10, or maybe 11. Candidly, I think 11 is the forged signature on the $100,000 policy.
Sure.
So
That relates to the claim, right? Count 7 is a false claim
right.
on an insurance policy. Count 8 is a scheme devised to get the money falsely from an insurance company.
But
Can or cannot involve a claim.
fair enough. But is it I acknowledge that we don't need to get into merger today, but
Sure.
is it the forged signature on the $100,000 true stage?
Sure. It's the signed application on January 28th and 29th. It starts with the application
Okay.
for the policy that issued on February 4th.
Right.
10 days before the attempted homicide.
Okay.
A month before the homicide. It starts with that signed kind of application that court will recall there was no way for the insurance company to contact Eric Richins. Rather, they can only contact the defendant, right? The defendant used her business PO box. The defendant used her email. The defendant provided an improper phone number.
Okay.
And so submitting that application begins the scheme.
Got it.
And the scheme continues through the false claim for the money. And the evidence of that is the claim log we submitted into evidence as Exhibit 67. But different than the false claim where the mens rea and the actus rea is just submitting a false claim with the intent to get paid on it. The scheme is much more sweeping. The scheme in count 8 is I'm going to submit a false application for insurance on Eric Richins' life. I'm going to then cause his death and then seek money.
Understood. All right, so with respect to the 3 forgery counts, 11 is allegations regarding Eric Richins' signature on the application for the $100,000 true stage policy.
Correct, Your Honor. That's the policy in Exhibit 17.
What is 9 and 10?
9 is the fraudulent bank statement that the defendant provided to Iron Bridge, and 10 is the similarly fraudulent statement that the defendant presented to Boomerang. That's the cut. Those are the cut and paste job statements.
And so the forgery count of 9 is related to the mortgage fraud count that is in 5, right? And then the forgery count in 10 is related to the mortgage fraud count in 6.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Anything else you want to put on the record at this time?
No, Your Honor, I'll be back.
Very good. Ms. Lewis, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm going to address counts 1 and 3, and a little bit of 4. And then Ms. Nestor is going to address count 2
Okay,
and the remaining counts.
tell me where you see the gap on count 1.
All right, well, here's where I see the gap on count 1. So I understand that there was a finding made at the detention hearing. And I understand that the court can consider the transcripts from that hearing. However, I think we're in a kind of an interesting situation, because the burden of proof has to be at the preliminary hearing, and the court does need to make a new finding at this hearing. And I actually think, interestingly, that this is a situation where additional information that came in makes it less likely and makes it more difficult for the state to establish a reasonable belief as to the first element of aggravated murder, that she actually intended and knowingly killed Mr. Richins. Because what we learned yesterday is we have now the affidavit, or the 1102, from Ms. Lava. What that really tells the court is only one thing, is that she believes she gave fentanyl to Ms. Richins. She doesn't know what she gave Ms. Richins. Whatever she gave Ms. Richins has been through at least 3 people before it came to Ms. Richins. Ms. Lauber got it from somebody, Mr. Crozier, who got it from somebody else that we don't know who that other person is. None of these people manufactured it. None of these people tested it. So we don't know what was given to Ms. Richins.
I don't disagree that we don't know, but knowing is not the legal standard that I'm required to apply today. So tell me why Ms. Lauber's 1102 is insufficient to support a reasonable belief in the parlance of preliminary examination law that the stuff that she provided was fentanyl.
Well, let's look at the distribution counts and examine that.
Yeah, we can do it. All right, go ahead.
So looking at the distribution, then I'll backtrack a little. So Detective O'Driscoll said that he had no way of knowing, that he did not know what was in the pills.
He just knows that they are blues or greens, which, given his experience with insane narcotics, but with controlled substances, is consistent with street fentanyl.
Blues, he said.
Okay, there you go.
Anyway, I was trying to remember if this was in the record or not before I said it out loud. So that's what was my pause there. But I have never seen a distribution case where we don't have anything that was distributed.
You mean a preliminary hearing or a trial? Two very different universes.
Well, personally, neither. Okay? Personally, I have not seen it either place. But I don't think just an individual who's a drug addict saying, I thought I gave fentanyl.
Doesn't that form the reasonable belief, though? I mean, by all accounts, Carter Lauber knows the difference between a controlled substance and not.
Well, that's not in her affidavit. How do we know that? How do we know that she knows the difference?
With respect, she's in drug court and she faces controlled substance convictions. So apparently she has some experience with it.
Detective O'Driscoll testified that she said initially, and she said it in more than once, that she knew nothing about fentanyl. She didn't deal fentanyl. It's not her drug. And he said that.
These are great trial arguments, but I question whether this would be sufficient to, these concerns are sufficient to rule that there's only a speculative basis rather than a reasonable basis.
And I understand.
There was provision of a controlled substance.
I mean, I understand your position, where you're headed with this, but I do think we want to, for the record especially, Detective O'Driscoll testified that he could not say with any certainty what happened in those pills. We have no knowledge, no testimony, no evidence even if those pills were fentanyl, what happened to them after February 25th? I mean, the third ones were allegedly received after Mr. Richins' death, which is interesting in terms of what these pills were actually for. And I think, and again, maybe a trial argument, it's interesting that if that was the purpose of these pills, that they were still being handed out afterwards. But he said he could not testify what happened to those pills. He cannot testify what was in those pills. And he does not know how, if those pills were given to Mr. Richins, and if they were, how they were given, who gave them, did he take them himself? There isn't any evidence as to that. And I understand, you know, the position and the very low standard we're looking at here. I get it. But that would be.
To be clear, the court's position is based on an application of the standard, not because I have an independent belief of what did or
And I
didn't
didn't mean to imply that
Right.
it was your personal belief. I understand the standard.
Right.
And your application of the standard. Our position is still that there needs to be something more when you look at everything that's been presented as evidence in this case up to this point. And particularly on the distribution count, I think it's
3 or 4.
well to both, but there's additional, of course, problems with the February 14th
Right.
distribution.
Would if there is evidence sufficient to support a reasonable belief that Kouri Richins, there is probable cause for the count 3, right?
That, yes,
Okay. All right.
you're right. But I think I've made my argument on that. That and I just don't think that anything that happened from any of the other witnesses, of course, goes any further to show anything about Kennedy. It goes to the motive, which is an element of count 1, especially the Ms. Carrington's testimony. I understand that, but nothing that they said, I think, goes to intentionally or knowingly administering the drugs.
The motive would provide some foundation for intentionally or knowingly. Let me put it differently. If there was no motive, their inference would be harder to draw, correct?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
I think that covers what I have in our record on that. I don't know if you have any other questions, but Ms. Nestor will talk about counts 2, and then that, of course, relates directly to count 4. And she'll address the financial ones.
Okay. I think I understand your position on 1 through.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. May it please the court. If the court would indulge me just a couple minutes. I know you're so familiar with preliminary hearings. You do about 1 billion of them a year, probably. But I do just want to talk about what they are and what they mean to this system and to my client. So Utah is a state that has decided not to employ the grand jury system to determine whether someone should be prosecuted for a felony crime. Utah has decided to place the entire power of whether someone's going to be dragged away from their home in handcuffs to a courtroom facing serious charges to the discretion of these people at this table. It's their power to fill out an information.
I have some role in the process.
Before they get to you. I haven't got to that part yet. You're jumping ahead.
Okay.
But what brings them to you is the people sitting right here. And it's their opinions, it's their beliefs. They're not a grand jury, they're prosecutors, they do their best. So what we have created to protect clients from that awesome power that sits at that table is this process. That awesome power that sits at that table is this process of a gatekeeping, that instead of delegating that to a grand jury, people in our society that come together and close doors and hear the evidence and decide whether there's enough to put someone through this, they bring it to you. You're the gatekeeper. And this preliminary hearing is a critical right that every single individual who they decide to write a charge against has. And when we come before you we recognize that it's a low standard. We recognize that probable cause means that. It just means enough to charge you. It doesn't mean enough to convict you. It doesn't mean enough to determine you committed a crime. It's enough to charge you. But that charging decision does matter. And it's going to have a huge, huge impact on the way this case plays out, on the evidence that is brought before the jury, on who will be witnesses, determining what charges get past this gate, you the gatekeeper. So we believe very, very, very strongly that the charge of attempted murder has not met the lowest standard even of probable cause. And that as rare as it is for a judge to say there's not even enough to charge here, it is anticipated that that will happen on occasion, which is why you do thousands of these, right? Because every once in a while, they don't get up to that level. And we think in this case they haven't done it, and we'd like to tell you why. So thank you for indulging me in that.
I agree with everything you said about the law.
Okay.
What is the essential element of count 2 that you believe the state has either shown no evidence of or insufficient evidence to draw a reasonable inference regarding?
Causation, 100% causation. So, in order for them to establish an attempted murder,
right,
they have to show that Ms. Richins took some act that caused someone to be in danger of death, right? She had to have caused something that put them at risk, right? Whether they actually died, obviously it's attempt, right? So I think it's critical that you understand the timeline of that day. And I want to walk it through, and I know it may take us a couple of minutes, but I think it shows so clearly that they cannot make the connection. And it's indisputable evidence that's in the Celebrate that has been downloaded off their phones. There's no debate about what happened on those phones, okay? So, in Exhibit 6, there are substances of text between Eric and Khouri that say exactly their communications that day. I want to go back to the very beginning, which is the receipt, which is Exhibit 66 from the Mirror Lake Diner. It shows that Khouri's credit card swiped at 9:07 a.m. and that she ordered a bagel breakfast sandwich and an omelet. There is a statement under the sandwich that it's over hard, which means it's an egg sandwich. There's an egg in that breakfast sandwich, and I think that's important because I don't know about you, but I'm not eating an egg sandwich 2 to 3 hours after it's brought to me. You eat it quick or you don't eat it. So she brings an egg sandwich home at 9:07. This actually hasn't come in, but I think the court could take judicial notice because of the address on Ms. Carrington's exhibit about the Willow Creek home where they resided. It's about 5 minutes away from this cafe, and I don't think the DA will, or the county attorney will dispute that.
Nothing in Camas is very far away.
Nothing in Camas is very far away. So it's about a 5-minute drive from the cafe to their home. So best case scenario of her credit cards being swiped at 9:07, she's getting home around 9:15 in that area.
Is there any evidence that she actually went home?
Correct.
Well, I'm asking.
There is on the phone. On her phone, the printout of her phone shows her returning back to. Well, actually, they've introduced that exhibit that they blew up that showed that she was on her way to the house, and that's from her home.
Okay.
So she was at home. So there's a period of time where she's at home between 9:15 and 9:41 a.m. with eggs to eat. Now, it is a fair assumption that when you bring eggs home, you eat them quickly. So it is perfectly possible and just as inferential that she could have had breakfast with her husband that morning together. And let me tell you why I believe that that's proven in the state's own case. Because at no point in any conversations, any texts between Kouri and Eric, does he ever tell her that he's feeling sick until he tells her at 11:40 something that if I'm still feeling this bad, I'm going to go to the hospital. So it sounds very much that they've already discussed that he doesn't feel well, right? So it is perfectly consistent with Khouri Richins' statement to her friend the day they breakfast together, which would make it pretty hard to poison someone when they're sitting there and you're handing them their food and watching you hand them their food. So then you have Eric between 10:21 and 12:06, and these are reflected in exhibit number 38, which shows the locations of calls made by Eric.
Could you pause for a second?
Yes.
Is there a statement that they ate breakfast together?
They just talked about her telling her friend lying that they were together when they ate.
So I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything that you're seeing. Quote, forgive me, folks. I didn't even make him a fucking sandwich, this fucking idiots. It was Valentine's Day, and Eric and I both were working from home that day, and I ordered lunch from Mirror Lake Diner.
Well, that was months later, and she hadn't seen the time. She hadn't been exposed to any of the
Folks, I need you to take a deep breath. Is there any evidence that she has a backward-looking statement saying, I ordered breakfast?
Well, that's the only statement that we're aware of.
Okay.
But at that point, she hadn't seen the time. So she's remembering if it was breakfast, lunch, whatever. I mean, that was months later.
Right.
But she admits she got it in Mirror Lake. She admits they ate it together. She mixed up the time of breakfast and lunch. I mean, there's no debate. She was not there at lunchtime. That didn't happen. So,
right.
So that's clearly a mistake. So she leaves the house at 9:41 and is gone for the rest of the day. Eric drives to multiple other locations after she leaves.
Do we know, help me out, do we know that? Or
Yes.
was he doing the estimating from home? This was unclear to me from the testimony.
So in the Celebrate exhibit that is Eric's phone, it shows where he's making calls from.
Okay.
And so he makes calls from, I think he goes to it looks like the Smith's grocery store, the Walmart. He goes and runs some errands. He's making business calls ever since Kouri left, the whole time. After he's eaten the egg sandwich, he's driving around, he's making calls. Then he texts Kouri at 11:27 and talks to her about some soccer fees that the boys owe. And then says a few minutes later, so between 11:27, he's talking about soccer, and 11:33, so he hasn't seen Kouri now in 2 hours. He says, I'm gonna go lay down. If I don't feel better, I may go to the hospital.
Right.
And I must respectfully point out that when the prosecution talked about her saying, go take a nap, and how that was chilling, he pulled that completely out of context of the rest of what she said in that text.
Do you need me to come home?
Would you like me to come home? Jesus, is that bad? You know, she even at one point later in the day talks about, he says, I wish you were here. And she's like, I would cuddle you. So that is very misleading to pull that statement out. And I need to correct that for the record. But regardless now, he hasn't been in her presence for 2 hours. If he ate that sandwich, he ate it around 9:30, give or take, at the latest. So in that period of time, he's been running errands, doing business calls, texting Kouri, very benign, normal day-to-day texts, nothing about I'm about to die, nothing like that. He takes a nap for 2 hours. Then he gets up. They text romantic texts, wish you were here, like to cuddle. That's at 1:43 when he just woke up. The same period of time well, I'm sorry, that's not before. I withdraw that. Continues to make work calls from 1:50 to 2:30. Goes to a soccer game with his kids from 3:52 to 6:11. Takes the boys to get some food. Leaves food for Kouri in his truck as they go back to the game because Kouri is running late. And that's the day. That's the day that they're now saying that that you can infer she tried to murder her husband. There's no evidence he ever took a pill from her. There's no evidence that she ever, that he was, if she put fentanyl in his egg sandwich at 9:30 and he ate it, he would not be okay for 2 more hours. He would not be. And there's zero evidence. There's not one piece of evidence from Eric himself that he ever took anything from Kouri that day, that he felt bad up until 11:33 is the first time he feels bad. Now, I think you asked a fascinating question when you asked the prosecutor, do I need to consider the death as support for probable cause of February 14th looking backwards? And I think that's a really important inquiry, because obviously, if you look backwards, everything you're looking backwards at shades how you look at something that happened before. But if you look at that count in isolation, there is no evidence that supports an opportunity for her. There's no evidence to support that he took anything. There's no evidence to support that he had fentanyl, OxyContin. And as a matter of fact, he told, wait, I have to make this in.
Can I ask you some specific questions about
Yes.
this? So let's take it one piece at a time here in
Yes.
terms of events after February 14th.
Yes.
In your view, can the court consider Ms. Richins' text messages to Mr. Grossman on February 15th? Can I consider them at all?
Can you consider them? I mean, I think you can consider anything you want to consider in terms of.
Well, see, that's the question. The Utah Rules of Evidence say, no, there's all kinds of stuff you can't consider under these set of circumstances. It's often a difficult slalom course to ski. We did some of this yesterday morning.
Yes.
Trying to get a sense from the defense of whether or not the court can consider things like the text mentioned, quote, if he would just go away, end quote.
So
Or as evidence of an inference that she wanted him not around anymore.
But that could be divorce. That doesn't have to be death.
I understand, and we're not in a trial, and I'm not a jury, and so I have to contend with
But how
black letter law. Let me just get this out. I really am genuinely interested in your response. I acknowledge there are multiple credible inferences that can be drawn from this evidence. Several of them innocent, but I'm not allowed to pick and choose. I am not allowed to weigh the relative reasonableness or credibility of the inferences. I'm required to draw all reasonable inferences in the state's favor, to view the evidence as a whole in the state's favor, and identify is there a reading of the evidence that supports a reasonable belief. And so when you say things like, look, this evidence, she went home, I imagine Mr. Bloodworth is fighting the urge to jump up and say, and that just shows she went home to give her the sandwich. That just shows he went home to give her the sandwich. She went home to give her the sandwich. And so the reason I ask about the stuff afterwards,
Right.
the text messages, her statement regarding ordering them lunch, being home together.
So the text message certainly could be considered for the death, right? Because he's still alive
Well, I
and
got
it's
that.
February 15th,
But that's not my question.
right? So how does the statement on the 15th relate to something that didn't happen? She's talking about it future, right? Like,
I guess the question is, if on February 15, she has a text message showing a desire to have him not around anymore, why can't I consider that for her mental state on the 14th?
she doesn't say you should be dead.
I know, but we're talking in terms of reasonable inferences here.
It's, criminal defense lawyers look at these phones, and it's pretty terrifying to think that someone's gonna go back and look at text that you wrote about your spouse, you know, years later, and put it all into a cone of literal death threats when you say, I wish he'd leave, he's getting on my nerves, I want him to leave the house, I'm gonna leave him, I wanna divorce him. They put in Eric's divorce meeting with his divorce lawyer. I mean, this was not a perfect couple, they didn't have a perfect relationship. But to take a context, one single text, and to say that that gives you a reasonable belief that she tried to kill him the day before, I don't see the connection at all. I
Okay,
don't think that is a connection.
so I hear you saying you can consider a judge, but it doesn't have any weight.
I don't think it does.
Okay. Same response regarding her June 18, 2022 text to her friend?
That's what we just said, where she has not seen yet the time, like she hadn't had an opportunity to review the timing. So if she mixed up lunch and breakfast, but everything else in there is consistent with what happened that day.
What about her text message on or about February 26th to Carmen Lauber saying I need something strong?
Again, that's after the 14th.
It's a backward looking statement though, or at least it's comparative.
Well, apparently she had recently apparently according to Ms. Lauber, she had just recently got something from her. So
Right.
I mean, that could be not connected to the 14th at all.
Okay.
So,
Or more specifically, not necessarily referring to what you got on the 11th,
Right.
but could be from the 25th.
but I mean, you have a claim that Mr. Richins was poisoned on the 14th. There is no medical evidence, there is no connection, there is no causation, there is nothing but pure speculation that because they believe she tried to kill him and successfully killed him in March, that must mean she tried it before. That is not enough to reach a reasonable belief that someone, and that's the question you asked at the very beginning.
Right.
Just because, I mean, it's like a backwards acting in conformity argument.
Yes.
It's a backwards 404B evidence.
Well, this is my question.
Right,
Does that exist?
which, by the way, 404B's whole purpose of existing in every state in America and in the federal system is exactly to avoid this kind of prejudicial leap of because somebody did something once, they must have done it again. That's the whole reason we have 404Bs, to prevent that.
I acknowledge that. I imagine you would acknowledge as well the numerous exceptions and the lengthy or the deep body of case law regarding exceptions to the general bar to propensity evidence. And so here, when Mr. Bloodworth makes references to modus operandi, he's arguing to some of those exceptions.
Well,
In
actually,
your view, does 404B work backwards or does it only work prospectively?
it only works prospectively, in my opinion. But the analogy as to why this is such damaging and risky analysis can be found in that rule, baked into that rule that our legislatures and our Supreme Court recognize that that's very, very dangerous to base the prosecution on somebody used drugs once before in their life, they're probably guilty this time. That's the whole thing we're trying to avoid in our system. And that's the whole basis for their argument on the attempt. That's the entire basis, because they know they don't have proof. They don't have medical proof. We heard testimony about allergies. We heard about all of that. So, I mean, there's innocent explanations for everything that happened on the 14th, every single thing. So that doesn't lead to a reasonable belief. They're 100% relying on an action conformity argument.
I don't think we heard the admissible testimony of allergies, but I take your point.
I'm sorry. I'm trying really hard
That's
to
okay.
separate it in my brain.
I understand.
I actually think it's included in the, I believe it's included in some of the exhibits, but we'll just leave it alone just in case I'm wrong about that. I can check that while he's back up. But having said all of that, you know, the distribution charge that is connected to the attempt charge, if the attempt charge doesn't have probable cause, the distribution charge doesn't have probable cause.
I agree.
They both have to go.
May I ask you about the consciousness of guilt argument that the state makes?
Yes.
Which I understand to be my words, not the state's. Why is she lying in her text message to her best friend in June about what happened on the 14th?
I think the only thing she got wrong was breakfast or lunch.
Well, I think her location about her being home all day is one of the things they lean on. We were working from home that day.
I mean, that's easily provable. So it's not like when she's talking to her friend, she's trying to remember the day back, a few months later. And she got part of it right. I mean, and part of it wrong. And I just don't know if it's just, how do we know that? What purpose would that be? How would that serve as a lie?
The argument is that she's hiding the fact that she was with another person besides her husband on that day.
Okay, that's a good reason to lie, because you're with your boyfriend and you don't want to admit you're with your boyfriend.
Right.
I mean, that's not conscious of guilt of killing your husband. That's not wanting to tell people you were hanging out with your boyfriend.
Okay, that's one credible inference, right?
Yes.
All right. Would you say that it's not a credible inference that the reason she's lying to her friend is because she had the scheme to be not present when
She admitted she was present with him, and she was. She brought him breakfast.
Okay.
So that's true. That inculpates her more than exculpates her. That's the opposite of covering herself. She's putting herself in the house with him on the day that they're claiming he was attempted to be poisoned. That's a statement against interest.
Okay.
In my opinion. Okay. So I don't really need to argue the distribution. You get that. All right. So the only other things that we have on the fraud type arguments. I do think that the state never established jurisdiction or venue for any of those counts. I don't believe we've heard any proof about why this court has jurisdiction over these acts. They did not establish where they occurred.
why isn't there a reasonable inference that Khouri Richins was making these applications and forming these schemes from Summit County?
And they have to show that. You can't just out of whole cloth make that up. There's no evidence that occurred.
Well, the standard of proof is the same for every element of the crime, right?
But
So
there's
evidence
no
that-
evidence that was submitted.
She lives here, her business was based here. I think there's a basis for reasonable belief that she was initiating these contacts, forming these schemes from Summit County.
Well, I just want to make the record.
Okay.
I don't believe they've established jurisdiction or venue on any of those counts. Furthermore, on the, I don't see why the two insurance fraud counts don't merge here.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm seeing several merger issues in this
Yes.
information, but merger is a fact issue that's handled after conviction. Am I right about that? Not at a preliminary hearing.
Not after conviction, before, you said after conviction, you meant after.
Is it before submitting it to the jury or after?
Merger?
Yeah,
I always do it as a pretrial motion, but
okay.
I may be wrong, maybe two, you're wrong.
I don't think it gets considered though at a preliminary hearing as a matter of law.
Well, I think if you determine at a preliminary hearing that two counts are actually one act, that you cannot push forward one of them, absolutely, I think you can do that.
Do you
But,
have a citation for that? I thought it was the opposite at a preliminary hearing.
well, I think you would just argue that they can't make two separate counts. So there's not sufficient reason to believe that a second crime was committed because it's all one. So that's your finding, that it's a reason. You can't reasonably believe the second crime was committed because it's just one crime. Because the scheme swallows the allegation of the filling out of the application. I mean, it swallows it. So,
I'll take a look at this.
and then I think on the rest, we would just submit on the other counts, Your Honor.
All right, so let's just be clear, to the extent that merger needs to be considered as part of the probable cause determination, that's gonna mean that 1 and 3 merge, right?
Yes.
2 and 4 merge?
No, not 1 and 3. Attempted murder is on a separate day. It wouldn't.
1 and 3, 2 and 4.
I'm sorry, let me look at what 1 and 3 is. I'm getting my numbers mixed up.
So the distribution counts merge into the ag murder and ag attempt, right?
No, those would be 2 separate crimes.
Tell me why. You can't
Because
commit them without doing the distribution, right?
right. I think they don't merge though. They're separate crimes. Like distribution is a separate offense than the attempted murder.
Okay.
So they wouldn't
then
merge.
why isn't on the one hand forging a signature and then on the other hand making a false statement when trying to collect on the claim? Why aren't those 2 separate crimes? What is the merger
Because
you're
they're
arguing for?
the 2 insurance fraud charges, because that is the same offense. Insurance fraud is not 2 separate offenses. And what they did is they said she created a scheme to wrongfully get insurance fraud. And part of that scheme was she signed the application and they just charged insurance fraud twice. I'm not talking about the forgery, I'm talking about the 2 insurance fraud charges. I think they merged.
All right.
And
Just to be clear, you think they merge because it is the same fruit of the criminal conduct. That is, there was only one policy.
right. That's correct.
Okay, I understand.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just have 1 minute before I sit?
Of course.
Just one more thing, Your Honors. And I guess maybe the last thing I would say too is there's so many reasons that Mr. Richins could have not felt well that day and taken a nap. And to get over the hump of saying you're gonna stand trial for attempted aggravated murder, which is about the next to most serious charge you can ever be charged with, because he went to take a nap, is pushing it, Your Honor. We're just asking that the court exercise your gatekeeping function. Let's remove that from the confusion it will cause the jury, the prejudice it will cause the jury, the complete lack of foundation. We're asking that the court take the rarest of steps and say, this one will not go forward. And we submit on that.
Okay, thanks, Dean. Thank you. Mr. Blow.
Your Honor, real quick on just the merger issue, it's 2 different policies. Count 7 relates to the $250,000 two-stage policy. Count 8, I think, relates to the $100,000.
That is not the way it is charged. I think that is, you're gonna need to amend the information if you want to do that. And frankly, I don't think there's any allegation of fraud, or there's any, tell me why there's any reasonable belief regarding fraud related to $250,000 policy.
Fraud in the claim, saying that I don't know why Eric Richins.
That's not what she said with respect to the $250,000 claim. That was only with respect to the $100,000 claim. It's 2 separate diaries. This is why I'm asking.
Your Honor, I think
They were paid out at different times.
sure, in the one diary, though, they discuss both policies.
I don't think that's true. You can show me, but I looked at them carefully yesterday. They are separate diaries regarding separate policies.
Let me ask you this, sir. Is this an issue you're considering, and so I can show it to you, but I don't know that it's.
I understood you to be saying count 7 is based upon statements made during the process of collecting the proceeds in June. Count 8 is the scheme to get the policy with intent to kill Eric Richins to collect. Are you referring to the statement, Mr. Burmester, of no known drugs, occasional cannabis use?
No, that.
That came out of the medical records.
Your Honor, it's Exhibit 18. page 1, it's the last note.
I see what you're referring to. So this is 1803. Hold on a second. Let's get to the bottom of this. My apologies, I had it backwards. Okay, so, count 7, thank you for this clarification, is with respect to the $250,000 policy. Got it. Thank you for that clarification.
Your Honor, regarding the 404B discussion, the purpose of admitting the evidence is further to many of the exceptions, propensity, intent, preparation, lack of accident, nearly all of them. 404B just relates to whether or not the defendant acts in conformity with her character, whether that's prospectively or retrospectively is relevant. The most of the defense's argument against Binder or the attempted homicide count, as the court kind of noted, a lot of that goes to jury. A lot of that was arguing countervailing evidence. As the court is well aware, the standard today is notwithstanding countervailing evidence, whether that's countervailing evidence of how quickly Richins eats his eggs, or whether he was shot beforehand or afterhand. It's countervailing evidence. It does not apply to the court's analysis today. Part of that countervailing evidence, I find it ironic that the counsel argued we hadn't heard one piece of evidence from Khouri Richins. What questions does the court have?
I understand the state's position. I understand you to be saying conduct in March is evidence of other acts admissible to prove an MO. I understand the state's position.
And the lessons learned, I think, is very important.
Sure.
We've had some discussion with defense counsel also as it relates to the standards at issue for the probable cause determination. And I think the court has sufficient evidence when viewed in the light most favorable to the state, when giving the state all the reasonable inferences, notwithstanding the countervailing evidence, to find probable cause here even without the 404B part. The 404B part helps, certainly, but I don't even think it's necessary for the court to get to a probable cause determination. And, Schmidt, in discussing probable cause, references that probable cause in a preliminary hearing is the same as probable cause for an arrest warrant. And if the state were to set forth all the evidence it has put, referenced in its brief, argued here today, and charge an attempted murder, and ask for an arrest warrant on the information.
Or a search warrant.
Or a search warrant.
Right.
And if the state submitted it to 100 judges in Utah, 100 of them would issue that warrant.
Check to speculation.
It's an argument. Over. I understand the state's point. Okay. It is 11:29. We're gonna come back at 11:50. Oh, Ms. Nestor, my
Very
apologies.
Quickly, I checked the ME report. It did reference the fact he was positive for COVID, but
Okay.
it did not talk about allergies in the ME report. That's where I thought it might be. But I'll keep looking and see if I can find it. But I do know that he did test positive for COVID.
Understood. Thank you. 11:50. Court's in recess. Thank you.